Hello, everyone. Welcome to our industry talk for this evening. My name is Bob Woolsey. I am the Administrative and Production Manager at the Film Production Program. And today I have with me Joe Fang. He is an alumni of the Film Production Program from FP 113 and Lucky 113, and now the Managing Director Universal Music Publishing. And you may wonder how Joe got from being a VFS student to being the Managing Director of Music Publishing at Universal China. And that's why he's here today. So Joe, welcome. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Bob. Hi, my name is Joe. 113 sounds a very familiar number to me. Back in my memory. Thank you.
So Joe, I wanted to talk a little bit first off just about sort of how things began. Obviously, you're from China, as I understand, Beijing, I believe. And so what brought you to VFS way back in, I believe it was 2006, 2007 was your year at the film school. What made you come to VFS?
Well, first of all, I had a dream to become a filmmaker in my high school when I was a teenager. So I always want to get the right education to learn about filmmaking. So I bought a flight ticket to Vancouver to train my English and my literature first. So my junior college, I went to Langara in Vancouver the first 2 years. And then I want to study film. So I consider going to University of British Columbia, UBC. So I got enrolled and tried out their programs, like pre-programs, but it wasn't really what I wanted because I want more to have the practical experience instead of like a little bit too academic. So Vancouver Film School is always there, downtown Vancouver, and they have a beautiful campus, and a lot of my friends, international students in Vancouver, went there for programs in design, game design, et cetera, et cetera. So I learned, and I think that's what I want. So I actually went to Vancouver back in 2002. So I started to study in Vancouver Film School in 2006. So that's actually my fourth year in Vancouver, but that's my final phase in my days of Vancouver.
That's awesome. And so coming to the film program then, and finding this sort of applied education at the film program, talk a little bit about, I want to get to all the stuff that you've done after film school, but just talk a little bit about sort of how your year was there and how that shaped you in the career that you've had after.
Right. I think it's one of very special years in my life. I actually moved to downtown. So I walked to the campus on Hastings every single day, walk back and forth. It was quite a different experience. Before I lived on the 42th Street Avenue or something. And all of the students in my class hang out all the time. We talk about films, we work together, we study together. And I remember the first orientation day, the dean was David at that time. And he said welcome guys, you're here now to become the best filmmakers, but you are here to become filmmakers. I think that's really a good start for me because we're here to learn how to, what is filmmaking, right? I think filmmakers or creative talents is a gift, but the making of it, the producing side is quite a craftsmanship. I think that's the best I learned from there. And of course, there's a midterm, there's final, there's all the different projects we've done together. Very good experience. We still have the real film era. It's not total digital. So we actually—
That's right. Yeah, you were shooting on, would it be
16 millimeters. Yes.
Yeah.
I remember went down to the gear room, the equipment room downstairs of Hastings. And I think the guy there was very careful with the film rolls. It's quite an interesting and special moment to get the film rolls, you put in the camera, and and then after rolling and recorded with very carefully took the film outside of the camera and put in the can and sent back to Technicolor. I think there's Technicolor to help the students to print out their footage. So yeah, good memory. I think that's the best thing about Vancouver Film School is it even though it's a school, it actually duplicate all the professional procedures of making a film, and you have all the tensions, you have all the nerves to make the film, it's, when you say clear the gate, it's clear the gate, it's all the good memories, I'll say.
Well, even now that we've moved on to digital, I think you were near the last few classes, I think, that got to shoot on film. But even now that we've moved on to digital, it's sort of a different kind of stress. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And I like the thing. David's not with us anymore, but his sort of advice of you're here to be a filmmaker, not necessarily the best filmmaker, I think is brilliant, because it takes a lot of people to make a film, and that's one of the things that our program tries to kind of teach you every little aspect of it. But I guess before we move on to what you did after film school, is there something that somebody watching, obviously you coming, and you were in Vancouver for a while, but somebody coming from an international place, attending a place like VFS, would there be any advice you'd give to anybody trying to make that journey?
Well, I think it's really a choice of each person, because everyone has their own agenda, especially, I think there are different age groups coming to Vancouver, right? It's not necessarily just the early 20s. There's like late 20s and the early 30s. Because in my class, I think the oldest or the most senior classmate, I think, is almost 40 years old at that time. So everyone has their own agenda coming to Vancouver Film School. Some of them want to be an entrepreneur to open his own media company. Someone want to get enrolled into the filmmaking industry in North America. Someone want to take the experience back to Europe, Africa, Asia, to have the expertise to share and to grow their career. I think I'm the latest. Like my goal is always I want to learn from the best, but I want to go back to my country and bridge those two markets, or bridge those two cultures together by making content. I think that's been always my ideal.
That's a great segue, actually, because that was the next thing I was going to ask is, so after you graduate, it sounds like it was always your idea to go back to China and kind of bring what you learned here back there.
Right.
And yeah. So talk a little bit about those steps and how you made that happen.
So, well, it's been 14 years. So there's a lot of steps, like always a staircase. So I think the first job is, of course, going to a film TV crew, right? That's what I just fresh out. I learned all the skills. But of course, I think every film and TV set in every country is different. Is to have different standards, different environment, different people. So I think the first job I got is a script supervisor in a TV drama crew. That lasts like 6 months. We shot scenes in Beijing, in Shanghai, and in Hengdian. That's a studio lot in the Zhejiang province. So with 6 months, very intense shooting experience. And then that's to be honest with you, the first experience is a little bit different than I expected, because I think back in 2007, the film TV making is still very away from the North American way of making things. So a little bit, hard to adapt. So because I think I'm good at post. So post producing and editing and directing. So I had a job at the Beijing Olympic game as the daily highlights content chief director for post. So I had experience for a month editing and directing the post daily highlight contents for Olympic and Paralympic games.
That must have been an intense job.
That was intense, but that really gave me the confidence. Hey, I can do this, and used all the experience I got from Vancouver Film School. Because editing is storytelling. with all the materials. So then I got a job in a TV station and become a director editor. So we shot, travel shows, and in-studio programs, and that was quite good 2-3 years because I'm just concentrating on directing and editing. Right. So that was a very good 2 and 3 years run, and then I got a very good producer. So my producer left the TV station. I went to a really good documentary house in China, documentary production house. So I follow him and I become a chief editor director. So I start to lead a team of people. I done just doing on my own. So I try to influence others and led a team of 15 people to edit a daily program. So that was like a 23 minutes daily program behind scene of movies program.
Right. So like sort of if a movie's shooting, you'd show up and go and like interview the stars and stuff like that.
Yeah, you local films, we had opportunities to interview the crew and stars. And then for international movies, we have all this, media packs, and then from the major studios, and we added them, mixed them together, and changed them into a show. So yeah, that was a little bit change of my role, but I was still in the TV field. That lasts another 2 years, and then I always try to make like a position in the filmmaking, and also I want to do international collaboration, co-production film. So then there's a very exciting project. It's a Stanley's Chinese superhero project. It's in the pre-development phase. So I jump into that project and become a development producer for that project. It was a 6 months journey, not too long. Unfortunately, the investment fell apart right before the production kicked off. But that was a really special time because I had a chance to have lunch with Stan in Santa Monica and talk to the gentleman. So that's worth it. Yeah, even though we didn't actually make that movie, the script is awesome. But
so was it sort of like a Stan Lee style superhero movie that you were going to do in China with original characters, or what was the project? Yes. Right.
Yes. It's basically the story is Chinese immigrants try to make a way out of Chinatown in a city in the US, but it become a superhero and fighting against the villains. So, and I think he came back to China to fight together with American superheroes, psychics, and then kick out some badass, international badass. Something like that. Yeah, it was fun.
So, I mean, that covers quite amount of time. One of the things I'm a little bit interested about, so we can take a quick detour, is since you went back to China after graduation, and then through these different jobs, did you see a change in the Chinese industry? Because I know that China has been and still is very hungry for a lot of this content and to kind of build out, I think there was at one point a movie screen a day being finished in China somewhere, it was crazy. So can you talk a little bit about just the Chinese industry and how your experience with it was and if it changed at all? Just a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, I could have spent like another 2 hours talking about this, but I wouldn't. So in a summary, I think there's definitely big growth of exhibition site in China. You've got a lot of cinemas, we got a lot of screens. I think that exceeded in the US maybe 6-7 years ago. The market is huge because the audience, the people want to see movies, right? They want to spend their money in entertainment. However, I think the bubble was big 10 years ago. There's a lot of investment, but industry and infrastructure wasn't ready yet.
Right.
So I think there's a, co-production project like that. I think the US studios and investors, Chinese investors, they all very want to make things happen. But the problem is if you don't get the infrastructure, if you don't get the people ready, it doesn't matter how much money you spend on projects because it's not ready. And audience are very smart. If they see it's not a good story and the production value is fake, or it's not really supporting the story, it's not going anywhere.
Right.
I think right now compared to 10 years ago, it's more realistic. I think the local filmmakers, they learn from the West, but they come back to sharpen their own knife, to make things happen in China for China first.
Right.
And that level, keep raising to where the US or the foreign filmmakers and investors can really work together on the story side. I think that is the true era for international collaboration with China.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think one of the things that, as the world seems to get smaller and smaller, these co-productions are fantastic because it allows people to share their culture in a way that, it doesn't feel like, oh, we got to share our culture. It's like you're just going to the movies, and if that work has been done, it comes across. Yeah. So we took a little bit of a detour there. So you were meeting with Stan Lee. This movie unfortunately didn't go, right. But I think we're about to get close to your entry into the music side of things, aren't we?
Yeah. So in the next 4 or 5 years, I start to change my identity or career away from the creative side, but more into the management side. So I joined Pinewood Studio to become their business representative in China. And then
this is the same Pinewood, obviously, from
yes.
London, that they were opening a studio in China.
Yep. That's because they had a consulting relationship with Wanda Group for their Qingdao studio. So they found me and they want to say, hey, you want to lead our business representation in China? I was just, yeah, I want to learn about the business side of things, not just creative. And then I had a chance to work in a studio lot outside of Beijing. It's called Dachang. So Dachang have like 5 studios, and I was one of rare talents to have expertise in the film's lot operation. So I joined them to become their business development director. And then right before Universal Music Publishing, I joined After Effects company called Base. It's founded by an American, but the most of the operation is in China. So I was there leading their film content development department, more on the business side, producing side, and team management side, less creative. So that's kind of like my split. I have like 5-6 years in the creative side, another 5 years in the business side.
And do you think, Joe, like your sort of entry into the management side and the people leader side of things, how inevitable do you think that is when somebody gets up to a certain level in filmmaking? Did you feel like that was kind of a conscious switch in your part, or did you feel like you were just reaching to a certain level that you inevitably had to be a people leader as well?
Well, it's definitely subconscious. I never choose to be this or that. I think in my early days, I always wanted to be like the best filmmaker in China. I think first is directing, and then when I saw more, I started to think, there's a lot of greater directors, talents than me. So maybe I should be the producers, or one of the producers to help them to make the project happen. And then when I see a wider range of things, I feel like, okay, so maybe making a company to recruit all those people, talented people, business side, creative side, that's maybe my contribution to the field. If you ask me what's the best advice from my career to give to to peers and students, I would say just do the best to the things in front of you. I mean, this is the true assets you can get is by doing whatever in front of you. I mean, we all had like high aims and long targets. I want to be this, I want to be that, you know, but maybe a little bit, philosophical. But in my opinion, I think, you know, the way will lead on its own. You know, we don't create ways. We are on the way. We're on the road. So just mind the steps you are making right now, and you know, and grow. I mean,
I
and
think
then
that's great advice for sure. Yeah, the head of the film program currently is a guy named Michael Baser, and he's got a very popular phrase that he uses all the time. I steal all the time, but basically he says you got to put yourself in the way of success, right? And I think, like you're saying, if you step up to whatever job you have in front of you and just do your best, you never know who you're working with. You never know who you're working with, who's going to be like talking to somebody over dinner later and be like, oh, this guy, Joe, you got to see him. You know, he's really great at X, Y, or Z. So yeah, I think that's fantastic advice as well.
And don't get obsessed. Don't get obsessed with anything you think you own or you think you reached. It will pass. Just move on. You know, I had lunch with Stanley. So what? It's like, let's move on. Like there's a more fascinating and unknown things in front of you, and that's the coolest thing ever is to discover.
I agree 100%. I think that's fantastic advice. Let's talk a little bit before we look at some questions here. Where are you now? So you're at Universal Music Publishing China.
Yes.
And what does that entail? What is your role? How did you get there? All that kind of fun stuff.
Sure. So that was second half of 2018. I got an offer from Universal Music Publishing Group. So Universal Music is definitely the biggest music company in the world, and its publishing is quite running on its own, but they never had a China operation. So they found me and said, hey, you have a cool experience working in the field for US companies, UK companies, and you'll get educated in Canada. So we're interested in you if you want to change your career to the music industry, but you can fund this operation on your own. Not on my own. I have mentor and leadership, but you know, I'm the employee number one in China. I think that was really attractive to me because I have enough experience working both as a creative person and as a business person. So I think it's a challenging thing for me to learn and work it out. So I took the job. So I become the managing director of China, Universal Music Publishing in 2019. So I started to found this company. So I, registered the business license. I found a place to work, like office place, of course. I recruited people, and then I started business. So at this moment, we have more than 22 employees in mainland China, and have also managed office in Hong Kong with 8 people. So I think that's quite exciting for me because I started from scratch. I started with nothing, but I have all the blessings and support from our global leadership and regional leadership, and they trust me and they trust the China market and they trust the talents here, most importantly. So as a music publisher, my job is to sign songwriters instead of singer artists. We sign songwriters, so we represent their works. So musical.
And so are you looking at sort of like taking Universal's catalog and harnessing that for Chinese film, or are you mainly looking at signing Chinese artists and harnessing their work for music and film?
Well, I do both. So first of anything, we have to be here to mandate or catalog to whoever are using our music, right? There's music, there's a talent show, there's a film, there's a TV, there's a documentary. Whenever they're using music, they need to get the license, right? They have to get properly the copyright checked. So we are the publisher to license, for example, represent Billie Eilish, represent Taylor Swift, represent U2, ABBA, Bee Gees. So if you want to use their music, you have to clear the copyright from UMP. So we are, first of all, we are here to make sure everybody is using music properly in China. And secondly, we are, investing and incubating the new songwriters from China. So we sign them, and if they make music, we are here to pitch their music, whoever is using them, the record company, film company, TV company, TVC commercial. Yeah.
Well, there's just so much music in entertainment, like you're talking about all of those different avenues. And I think a lot of students, when they come to the school, don't realize that like you're saying, you have to go and get the ownership to be able to sign off on you using that piece of music. Has this sort of new job and this new area kind of broadened your horizons in filmmaking? Has it made you think about filmmaking differently now that you're kind of on this music side of things?
Yes. I mean, when I was a filmmaker, music always came to the last. Even though I have an idea of music at the beginning, like always think where to put soundtrack. Well, are we gonna use original score or we'll use existing catalog? But when I became a publisher, I see a big advantage if the filmmakers and the songwriters can start dialogues even before production, even in the script phase, because those are highly creative people, and if they can sit down and talk to each other, they can inspire each other. Instead of just in my editing suite, I need some soundtrack to put underneath. That's not that creative, and that limits imagination. Because I think songwriting in the film industry is a very significant part for narrative and storytelling. It's kind of subconscious because you focus on the moving image, but what you hear, even it's a song or a score, it helps you build out the mood and lead in to the point you want to get in filmmaking.
Well, there's so many like iconic montages or sequences, or even like directors that you can hear the soundtrack of their movies.
Yes.
Just when you say like, a guy like Tarantino or even Wes
Anderson. Trainspotting.
Yes, exactly. You can always kind of hear that. So I think it's a wonderful thing to think about for young filmmakers to kind of seek that out and try and forge those things I think so that they can have that creative process, but also for young indie filmmakers, if you can find a great songwriter, then you can own that, the rights to that for your film right off the bat too.
Right. And we support, young filmmakers. If we listen to a student project, we usually use a very, very low fee, awesome. For them to use it. The rate really differs when the commercial values raise up. If it's a commercial, normally is very high licensing fee, right? Because we want to promote music, we want music to be everywhere, but we want different people use it different music for different purposes with different price. So I think that's, if film students, they want a piece of music from, David Bowie or Rolling Stone, come to us. We are here, not to make money from students, but to encourage filmmakers to use great music, or even collaborate with a professional songwriter right at the beginning that maybe just as young and as passionate as they are, to think about create an original score for their short.
I was actually wondering, like, do you guys as a company, and especially you coming from a film background, is there any matchmaking that you would do? Like, do you have filmmakers that you maybe put in touch with young artists, or young artists that you say, hey, this song could really go great with a film, and kind of put it out there? Like, is that kind of part of your business as well?
Sure. For example, we have Beijing International Film Festival. So we this year we sponsor their short film camp. So we actually sponsor them with production music. Nice. So we have a lot of production music, and usually, it's for commercial usage, but for the short director and producer, they can use them for free.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and also we sponsor their pitching session. For example, whoever is winning the pitching session, the project, when it get to production, our songwriter are willing to write a song together with the director producer. So
very cool. Yeah. Well, I think if you're ready, we could switch over here to some questions if you'd like to hear some.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. We have Toshi Asuji. My superpower, by the way, everybody listening, is to butcher names, so I apologize in advance, Tochi, if I butchered your name. But Tochi asks if, do you believe that the Chinese film industry is open to foreign creatives? Can foreign creatives create shows, films in China with Chinese investment broadcasters, producers?
I would say challenging. I would definitely say challenging, especially after the COVID. So I think every market is under huge attack of the COVID situation, because the theatrical distribution side is unstable. I mean, even China is becoming normal. People start to be very conservative in terms of investing and distributing films. And also, I think that's a broad question. I mean, as a foreign expertise or filmmakers, I think first of all, you have to be in China. You have to work with people here. Then you become part of this. Then maybe there's opportunities for investment for your project. You can't just pitch project from another continent and waiting for some like magical money. It's not going to work like that. Same as Hollywood. You have to be in Hollywood, right? You have to be in Vancouver, to become in this community. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. And wouldn't you say as well that like it seems like the appetite for films in China right now is really to tell Chinese stories, because for so long it didn't really happen that way, right?
Right.
So yeah, that would be correct. Yeah. All right. Yes. We've got another one here. This is the one I always fear, but somebody's asking, because it puts you on the spot, what's your favorite films, TVs, music artists? What would you say are some of the ones that you're listening to right now or watching right now? Particularly, is there anything from China that we should be keep an eye out for?
I listen to a lot of things and I watch a lot of things. I mean, I wouldn't say my favorite. In the recent 2 years, I think my favorite artist will be Billie Eilish. So, I have before, right after I start my career in music publishing, my mentor told me, you should watch out this new artist from US. She's just 16 years old. And I listened to her music like, gosh, I wish there's someone like that in China. Yeah, for film, TV, when I went to VFS, that's still the Matrix trilogy. Yeah, I think that's at that time that's really good memory for me because I think I watched Reloaded on Hastings Street.
Nice. Are you excited for the new one?
Yes, yeah. I saw the trailer. It's like, oh my god! I wish the new generation watch all the first trilogy first before they go to see this.
I know, and it's funny. Like you and I, we remember probably seeing even the first Matrix when it came out in theaters and stuff. We're older now, but a lot of the young students, it's like you talk about some of these older films and they have no idea. Yeah, I agree. They should go back and watch them.
Yeah, watch the 60s, 70s, 80s. Those are the best.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like you're saying, you watch lots of stuff, and I think that it's really important if you want to be a filmmaker or in the industry, you've got to watch stuff. It's and it's such a good time to be doing it too.
Sure.
We've got another question here. It's a bit of a long one. So this is Ziqian Liu or Liu. I'm sorry, I apologize.
Liu Ziqian, I guess.
Ziqian, there you go. Thank you. This is such a wonderful experience, getting to know your story. And the question is, I would like to know if you have any tips for young artists to break into the film industry, any values, experiences that you'd like to share with us.
Well, just as I said, do your best to things in front of you. That's the only piece of advice I would give to actually anyone. not just step into the film business, to step into any business. I mean, all the things in front of you, doesn't matter big or small, main or side, to just try your best to do to the maximum. And all these values will come back to you in your later on challenges, and nothing will be wasted. Every single experience counts, and it won't be fast and convenient. It'll come back. Like myself, like I started my career, want to be a filmmaker. So I concentrate on making every minute of the film TV I made the best. But I never thought about I'm managing director for a music company in China. I've never thought about it. But just be real and work your best is worth it. Totally worth it.
Well, and I think one of the things that I would ask you too, Joe, is like, say, for example, when you got the job at the Olympics, or even this opportunity that came up with Universal Music. I mean, when these opportunities came your way, did you feel like 100% prepared to dive in and do it?
No, absolutely not. I don't.
Right? I mean, I think that's the other thing for people to keep in mind, right? Is that you might not feel ready, but you got to kind of jump in too, right?
I think in the 20s, I think I remember someone in Langara College told me 20s is about tryout, right? Like it's not 10 years, you have to try out everything. But the most important thing is you have to discover who you are or what type of person you are. Some people are for adventures, right? Like they don't care. They don't even think about if I'm prepared or not. I just want to get in there. I don't care about getting hurt. But someone is not that. It's nothing wrong or right, nothing bad or good. It's just different people. I think for, in the film industry, there's tons of millions of different positions. Some people need to be creative, need to go forward all the time. Some people just stand there and make the best gaffer in the field. It doesn't have to be, write a script or something. I mean, gaffer could be very creative, but it's different type of marching in your career.
Well, that's the cool part about filmmaking, really, because everybody interprets the script, right? But at the same time, everybody doing that interpretation along the line, there's a little chance for them to put their creative spin on it, whether they're doing a super technical job or not. Hopefully, all those little contributions add up to something that's greater than the sum of its parts. So I think that's a great point to make. I think one of the things that is also very inspiring by your story is again, you jumping in and doing stuff, but also the way that you have moved into more of this leadership position over time. Would you say that that's something that came naturally to you, or did you really have to learn that management part of things?
I would say half. I think I wouldn't say I was a born leader, but I think I as a young person or teenager, I hate to be led. I want to make my decisions. I want to make up my mind and make it happen. And I think I was willing to take responsibility of the outcome of decision. I think that's half. The other half is really filmmaking, I would say. I think filmmaking, because it is teamwork. You can't make a film on your own as a professional filmmakers, right? So I think that's the best education from Vancouver Film School. Is in my program, film production, you learn everything and you try everything and you work with people, learn the same, and you want to make things together, make it happen. So even now as a leader, I would never say I'm a boss to my colleagues. I say we're a team, right? Like I'm a director in the crew. It doesn't matter it's 20 people or 1,200 people. You are the leader, but not necessarily you are the boss man, or you just give commands and people follow you. Like you're a team, but a bigger size of structure, you have different layers and tiers. You don't have you can't talk to 1,200 people,
Yeah.
you talk to that 12 people, and that 12 people talk to the other 30, 40 people. They have structures, right? But I really think, filmmaking always influenced me that you're part of team. Doesn't matter you are leader or you're being led, you're part of the team.
Awesome. We have another question here from Ada. Ada is...
Hi, Ada.
Where did she go? Oh, did you ever have moments of doubt and concern that you couldn't move forward? How did you push through those when you met those roadblocks?
Oh my God. Of course. Who wouldn't? I think one thing I learned from those years is try to, I think it's now I learn, it's what I become. I don't nowadays set big aims and long road destinations. I don't do that anymore. So when I was young, I always do that. That gave me certain security. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm going to.
You have a goal at least that you can
have a goal,
towards.
yeah. And then if you don't, how you can get there, or if you can get there, not necessarily up to you, because this is environment. That's a natural thing, right? Not necessarily if you want it, you get it. Not necessarily. So that is really about your perspective, right? If your aim is not the process but the destination, you probably will feel blocked or feel failed or feel disappointed. It's not really something blocking you. It's actually yourself, making those I wouldn't say illusions, but false feeling that no one is helping me, something is blocking me. But it's actually your perspective. If you think the true value is the process, not the final destination, you wouldn't feel it.
Yeah, no, I think we oftentimes put, I'm guilty of this myself, putting those expectations on yourself, and then just, if you only fail yourself at that point. Yeah, for sure.
Sure.
We have a question from Myrna. The question is, do you have a creative method? If so, would you share it with us?
Ooh, creative method. So as a creative person, not as a business leader. Okay.
You got to switch back to your creative hat here.
Right. I think my method is always put yourself at the audience seat. That's my creative method. When I shoot things and edit things and direct things, I will always try to switch my position as an audience, as an outside person. Try not to be totally subjective of seeing things. I remember when I was in the documentary house, I had 15 people making their programs, and I have to check if it's okay to go, and I give them comments and they go back to re-edit. Whatever they change or re-edit, I always start from the first second to watch the show. I never jump into the 13 minutes, 25 seconds to watch the part he or she edited. Always from the zero, because audience will see the zero. And I always tell them, don't explain to me. Whatever is on the screen is the only thing the audience will see. Don't explain why you edit this way or why. If the audience don't get it, it's not gonna work. So I think that's my creative method. I mean, even from the script phase, you have a story. The best thing is to tell to someone else, and if you can switch it, tell to anyone. Not your classmates. Tell to your landlord. Tell the story to the 7-Eleven shopper next to your apartment. Tell them, what they think. Are they liking it, or are they feeling it's boring?
Well, I mean, that is always the other part of filmmaking, right? I mean, we think of it as filmmakers and actors and everybody on a set kind of doing a thing, but without that audience, you really haven't made a film, So yeah. You need that sounding board for sure.
Yeah, I think creative process is really about communication, right? If it's a personal film you want to give to your wedding anniversary, that's a communication between you and your wife. If you want to go to a broader audience, you have to think, okay, how broad I want to get? Is a independent film festival, or is a regional, or local distribution, or is it international distribution? It really depends on who your audience is.
100%.
Yep.
We have a question from Christian. Now, in times where technology allows us to work from any part of the world, what's your prediction for filmmaking workflows? Do you think that Eastern and Western filmmaking will have some kind of merging?
I mean, technology is a tool, right? Technology is not a new thing. It's been evolving from the last 100 years, since the beginning of film industry, I would say. So it really depends on what people want, right? I think the Chinese filmmakers and like Bob said, they want to make stories that are compelling to the local audience. So they use local materials, local way of storytelling, they set the production value right at the bar to give the good experience and not to compare with Marvel films, so they want that, and technology is their tool. If they want to work with Hans Zimmer from US to get the score, they can do it without flying him over. I think that saves a lot of budget. Yeah. So is it getting into pieces? No, I think the film industry is still a whole. It's not getting fragmented at any aspect. It just the common influence definitely block people traveling to other territories. Otherwise I will be sitting in Vancouver to talk to you about. But
next time we'll get you here.
Next time, yeah. So I think it's not changing much with the new technology. It's just getting convenient for people to do whatever they're supposed to do.
Yeah, I like your comment about tools, right? Because I think at the end of the day, it's all like storytelling is storytelling is storytelling. It's just kind of the tools might shape it a bit differently, but yeah. Really.
But I think technology also affects craftsmanship and professions, right? I remember when my last 2 or 3 months in FP 113, the digital era arrived. Everything supposed to shot on HD. It wasn't 4K yet; it was HD. But one thing that changed a lot is the makeup program, because the makeup program, they have to learn a different level of putting makeup on actors and actresses. Because before, student film is, use cassettes and film. So the projection is not that crystal clear, but when we started, or VFS started to engage HD, that changed their program.
Totally. I mean, even when you watched, I remember watching The Hobbit that Peter Jackson did in 60 frames, watched it in the full 60 frames, and it was like you could see the makeup on people's faces. The sharper the image gets, it makes it difficult for some of those departments for sure.
Yeah.
No, it's going to be interesting to see how that stuff goes. We have a follow-up question from Tochi. Basically, he loves the Matrix trilogy and Reloaded blew him away. Wondering how popular is hip hop music in China, and does it have value for you in Universal Music with what you're doing with music there?
Oh, good question. Yes, I think hip hop is getting really more important in China. I think because, I have to introduce a little bit of China, but I think it's worth 1 minute. I mean, before, big cities like Beijing and Shanghai, they are developing very fast in China in the last, 20 or 30 years. But I think if you come to Beijing and Shanghai, is already well developed, just like, Vancouver, Tokyo, and Seoul, highly developed modern big cities. Hip hop music don't necessarily grow in those kind of cities, right? It grows from street. So there are second tier or new first tier, emerging first tier cities are emerging in China. Cities like, Chengdu or Hangzhou or Nanjing and Xi'an, all these developing cities, they have.
I love that you have all these developing cities. They're all like 40 million people, right? 30 or 40 million people in those places.
No. 15
Sorry,
million.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Not that much. You have to come to China to see.
I want to come back. I was there before the pandemic once every couple years. I want to come back.
Yeah. So in those cities, I think young people don't necessarily want to go to Beijing or Shanghai anymore. They want to stay, but their well-being is definitely improved. They listen to all music from the digital streaming platforms, and they start to develop their own culture, right? I think those culture is very close to the origin of hip hop from the West. And they borrow, of course, rap, dance, street dance, from the West, but they start to develop their identity. So yes, hip hop music is definitely having its era in China.
Well, and this is one of the interesting things, I think, having been a few times over there to mainly Beijing and Shanghai, but seeing China and just the amount of tools now that the kids have at their disposal with music, with filmmaking, all of this stuff. I think it's really interesting to see what they're going to do with it, right? Because like you're saying, the 20s are for trying stuff out, and a lot of those young folks end up, as they try stuff out, pushing the barriers of art. So it should be interesting to see how that goes. What do you see as sort of the next direction in filmmaking and music in China, and sort of culturally?
I think, again, it's very similar to film. The craftsmanship and the experience and the view have been improved a lot for professional people, and now they know where their audience is. So the audience is in China. They're not necessarily exposed to all the Western information and content before, but they definitely want to seek their own identity being echoed in the film and music. So the Chinese filmmakers and songwriters, and they are here to exercise their experience and knowledge from the West, but to satisfy the local audience. I think that's definitely what's going on, and is highly supported by the government for that kind of expression. Again, there are big fans for Taylor Swift. There's a big fan for Marvel films because China is diverse. I wouldn't say China is this, China is that. China has like 1.4 billion people. I cannot say they are liking this or not. They have the choices. The 1.4 billion people, they have their own choices. They choose. It's going to be a very diverse market with different tiers. Some of them are developed tiers, some of them are developing, some are underdeveloped. It's like the entire Europe in one country.
No, 100%. Yeah, no. I remember when I first went as sort of the ignorant Westerner, it is an eye-opening experience just to realize how big China is, not just by the number of people, but the different parts of the country. They look completely different and border different places. Yeah, it's a wonderful place, and I would recommend anybody listening to this to go and check it out. So I think looks like we've come to the end of our questions. Is there anything that you would want to say to these folks that are listening that we haven't covered yet? Anything about just your journey as a filmmaker, getting into music, being somebody who's come across the Pacific and learned in one place and then gone home? Anything that you would like to kind of use to sum up this conversation? And if anybody has any more questions, feel free to throw them in as well.
If anyone has questions, please pop up. I think I said a lot. To sum up, I think it's I enjoyed the journey so far, as a creative person, and later to be more business leadership side. But overall, I think I like to hang with creative people. I think those are the true value in the world. Whoever want to create something, want to express something, they are creative people, so you can learn from a lot from people around you. Doesn't matter it's from South Africa or Philippines or Canada or US or China, Japan. Doesn't really matter. I mean, I went in my days from Vancouver, I always hang out with international students. Nothing wrong with Chinese students, but I'm just interested in them. And I found them fascinating. They're all different. They spoke different languages. They ate different food. They dance different dance. That's just the best. And if one piece of information to international students, I would say learn good English. Like
Yes,
just learn the language. Craft them. Don't be afraid of writing essays or expressing yourself with language, because that's how we get to know each other, and that's the secret channel way is language, is English.
It's true.
Try to learn Chinese if they want to challenge.
Well, it's so funny. I mean, in your class, was there many Chinese students?
Well, there are two. Well, one is Chinese Canadian. So I was the only Chinese, but there's someone from Switzerland. There's one lady from Japan. There are some, I think there's less than about 10 from the US, and there's a couple from Europe and one from Arabia.
Interesting. Yeah, it's funny, we still get a very international group coming to the school. Of course, we get lots and lots of people from China, but it's interesting how through the years, some classes have more from one part of the world or another. But I always tell the students that, they come and they pay for the film education, but I think one of the, if not just as important, is that social education that they get just by all the people that are in their class and hanging out together. And now that we're out of COVID, hopefully we can get back to that part of the program as well.
Yeah. One special advice to the Chinese students in Vancouver Film School is go to those Western students' parties. Just go to their parties, but just hang out with them. That's probably equal to the value you can get from school, is to get into the culture, because you only be there for like 1 or 2 or 3 years. That's because I still remember all those in school moments and off school moments, and those people. I don't get in touch with them, but I think it's really bad. I never went back. I never come back to Vancouver after. But Vancouver is very vivid in my heart.
Well, we're going to have to get you back here. One of the best parts about doing these kinds of chats normally is you get to go for dinner after when you're in person. So we're going to have to get you out here and have dinner and get you back. Joe, I want to thank you so much for having this chat with me.
Thank you, Bob.
I was at the film school a little bit before you, actually, over in the writing program, and we never did cross paths as students, but I'm so happy that I've got to meet you now and gotten to know you a little bit. And next time you're in Vancouver, like I say, we owe you a dinner, and I will be back in China at some point. And so I will be looking you up for sure.
Thank you so much. And maybe I go to Vancouver earlier.
Please, anytime. We are going to wrap up. I just want to take a quick second just to thank everybody for coming to this talk, and thank you guys for your wonderful questions.
You guys.
Thanks to the marketing team for organizing these chats. They're a great way to connect with alumni and professionals and everybody. And lastly, just thanks again, Joe, for doing this. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate all the wonderful advice.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Right. Good night, folks.
Good night.